Okay, hello people. Let me see. Tomorrow I'm going to be, well, it's already uploaded, but I'm going to be putting it public. The Russell Williams, I put it in its own video, interrogation, the interrogation and the confession. It's all in one. That's going to upload by itself tomorrow. So if you see that, because I took it out of, well, it's still in last night's video, but I put it on its own too. Hope that makes sense to you guys. And tonight, yes, we're going to talk more about Russell Williams. It might be tonight, it might be another night. We were watching several documentaries about him, Kevin and Hart and myself, last night after the video, and so we watched a few of them. It was expanded on a little bit more about like what he did to these people when he went into their house, and which were these young girls, and that he was doing something and left a deposit on the top of the girl's dresser, which was then tested. So they had DNA evidence against him, and they had, people say, how did he get caught? Well, how he ultimately got caught was that one girl, Jessica Lloyd, who was missing, and then he eventually told them where the body is. Well, someone that was driving by saw an SUV, which was his Pathfinder, which parked kind of off to the side, like it was in an odd place, and they just went past it and saw it and kind of made a mental note of it, but not really too much. But then when they went past again, I guess that's when she was found to be missing, and they said that there were police cars all over the place. And then they were like, wait a minute, there was an SUV over there that didn't look normal. So when police went to look at it, that's when they saw these tire tracks, and how they narrowed it down to his Pathfinder. It was just incredible, but they did. And that's why he was brought in for questioning, because they got the tire tracks as a match, and he literally went through, I think it was 62 break-ins. Now he didn't do like forced, he did like really neat break-ins. So he was really good. I told you, at undoing locks and then redoing it. So he wasn't like breaking windows, bashing in doors, and he was able to go into the same house several times. And once he learned like certain nuances about it, he was able to get in there. And then eventually what he ended up doing is doing that, but then waiting in the basement, and for the first victim, Marie Cuomo, and he waited in the basement by the furnace. And what he was going to do is he was going to wait till she was asleep and then surprise her and attack her. But what happened was her cat was downstairs in the basement, and the cat was focused on him. So she ended up not having any clothes on. I don't know why, but she walked downstairs, and then she was shocked, and they said, like, what did he say? And she said, you bastard, or something. Now, I'm a little confused at that comment, like, because normally the first thing you'd say, if you walk down in your basement and you just see a guy by your furnace, I don't think you would say, you bastard. I think you would, but see, remember, Marie knew him from work. He said he only had a conversation with her at work, just a conversation. I think it was something more. Why would her response to him be, you bastard? Okay, because if somebody scared me and was hanging out by my furnace, I wouldn't be saying, you bastard. I might be saying, who the hell are you? I'm going to kill you. I don't know, but it's weird, because that is almost like somebody she knew, and somebody maybe she thought was stalking her, and why would she say, you bastard? So that was weird. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that right away. First away, we're going to talk about this Justin Baldoni $400 million lawsuit and all the things that it's for against Blake Lively. But let's say hello to the chatters. Hello, W2 Scooter, you're first. And Bucky Ann, hello. Oh, she got ahead of you, Bucky Ann. Too bad, right? You were typing first when yours popped up. Well, your lucky white angel didn't get you because she likes to do that and says you pushed her out. Bucky Ann. Hello, Margot. Hi, One Eye, Blind Arts. How are you doing? One Eye, you had something going on. Well, what did you have going on? How's your, is it your niece or the girl that's in the hospital after the crash, One Eye, Blind Art? How is she doing? I'm not sure if that's your niece or your cousin. How is she doing? I hope she's doing okay. Percy's doing okay. Let's see here. You're eating. Oh, I thought you were Scooter again. Sorry, Debbie D. I was going to say, Scooter, why are you eating again? You were eating before. Hello, Sassy Darcy. How's your husband? How are you feeling? Debbie D. Hello there. Annette Thompson, please, nobody is worth it. Annette says 400, I think you mean 400 million, nobody is worth it. Well, we're going to see. We're going to look over the lawsuit. I'm going to pull it up. I had it up earlier. Let me just make sure that I've got it right over here. Oh, boy. Is this it? Where did I have you? It's right over here. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to pull it up over here so we can look at it together. Hang on a moment. Just happened to my thing. I just had it. Hang on. That's so weird. Let's go back here again. So buttons on a shirt. Okay, I had it right here. The legal complaint. So weird. Okay, here it is. This is so strange. My, hang on. I think it's just... This is very strange. Okay, I just had this thing, and it was right here, and now she's filed. Okay, that's not the one. Where's my $400 million? Right here, Baldoni. The suit filed in the New York. Yes, this is what we need right here. Was filed, well, on January 17th, Blake Lively's legal team responded to the lawsuit. That's what I have to look at. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what the heck just happened. I know, and that's like really bad because I had this ready to go, and I probably have it open in one of my 87 tabs. And I'll get it to just hang on because I was going through it. Okay. This is crazy. Let me just go through my tabs because I have it open in one and it's just dumb that I'm not that I'm I think this is and I just want to, well, you know what, while I'm here and I'm just sitting here talking to you, I'll tell you that, here it is, I found it, yep. Okay. While I'm here, I'm going to let you know that I have if you see the community tab post, oh, and I have some thank yous to give. Julianne Gonzalez, thank you for your very generous gift to the legal fund. I really appreciate that. Rosalita Marie, thank you for becoming a new Patreon. I really appreciate that. And we are going to have a Patreon series, which is probably going to start in a day or two. And what I'm going to do is probably they're going to be live videos. They will be left up for Patreons. So if you miss the live, you'll be able to watch it. I am going to start a chronicle of the dark side of YouTube. And a lot of you don't know a lot of the early stuff. And it's not, you know, you might be thinking it's somebody with 3 initials and this and that. No, I'm going to show you where it all originates from. I'm going to be bringing the receipts, and they're going to be videos, and they'll be emailed, and you're going to see this progression. And it's going to be like a series of episodes about different people who have come in and, like, I don't know if you want to say trolled or tried to, had an agenda, all kinds of stuff. I'll explain it all. But you'll see, and you'll be able to connect the dots. And we'll go through, you know, everything. And I'll be able to have a lot of freedom to show you things and to talk about things. So if you're not a Patreon, there is the link in the chat. You can just put an exclamation point. It's very affordable. It has different tiers depending on how much you want to support the channel. But this is something that we're doing to help fund the legal battle we have. We're going to trial to protect our content. And, you know, we really hope that you'll help support this, because I talked to another very large creator today who told me that I should be talking more about the legal case on the channel too. So we are going to be doing that and talking about the legal case so that you guys understand exactly what's going on and what we're facing. And March 8th is a pretrial conference. So I did update the GoFundMe, and if you want to leave a donation there, that's, you know, very appreciated. And again, we have the Patreon. So now I've got this lawsuit here. I just want to make sure this right here is the right one, because this is 179 pages. Let me just go up here to the top. I just want to check out the date on this? Yes, this is it. Okay, let me pull this over. See, and I had it out here the whole time. Isn't that, interesting, right? Interesting. Okay, so this was United States District Court, Southern District of New York, and it's Wayfarer Studios, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Justin Baldoni, an individual, Jamie Heath, an individual, It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, a California limited liability company, Melissa, Nathan, an individual, and Jennifer Abel, an individual, are the plaintiffs against Blake Lively, an individual, Ryan Reynolds, that's her husband, also an actor, an individual, Leslie Sloan, an individual, and Vision PR Inc., a New York corporation, defendants. The plaintiffs, Wayfarer Studios, and I'm not going to list all these people again, I already did, okay, so we're just going to call them the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs allege as follows: the following is not a story the plaintiffs ever wished to tell. Unfortunately, the defendant, Blake Lively, has unequivocally left them with no choice, not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusations, but also to put the spotlight on the parts of Hollywood that they have dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. The task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely ride out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August of 2024, the public would likely have moved on and never known the truth about her. They would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed plaintiffs Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios of their movie. No one except the parties involved would have known that she used threats and extortion to relegate the colleagues she once highly praised to a basement to sit out their own premiere. While she enjoyed the spotlight of a premiere and an after-party that was ultimately co-financed by both Wayfarer and Sony, she would have gotten away with these things and more because Baldoni focused entirely on seeing the film succeed, would have held his tongue as he had through the year and a half that Lively tormented him, his family, and his partners. But Lively could not tolerate her publicly tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that it was entirely of her own making. She needed a scapegoat, and rather than admit and take accountability for her own mishaps, she chose to blame the plaintiffs in a malicious and unforgivable public manner. When she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfarer to read a statement, she and her representatives prepared, extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions. She lay in wait for months, preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that he had sexually harassed her. The same falsified stories she had calculatingly devised and used throughout the production of this film in order to take control were now being used publicly to destroy Baldoni and plaintiffs. Lively stole Wayfarer's movie, hijacked Wayfarer's premiere, destroyed plaintiffs' personal and professional reputations and livelihood, and aimed to drive the plaintiffs out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with the equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy against plaintiffs. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Department in California, the CRD complaint, in an attempt to use the litigation privilege to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times, but upon information and belief, the CRD complaint was filed only after the defendants spent months feeding falsehoods to the New York Times, intending that they be disseminated to damage the plaintiffs. So right now what he's saying is that he wouldn't have said anything because he is the producer of this movie, his company. He wants the movie to succeed. He would not have exposed anything. That's what he's saying. No matter what, no matter that he had to sit out the premiere for some reason in a basement, as he said, because he wanted the movie to succeed. But he's saying because of the lawsuit from Blake Lively, now he has no choice. And had she just wrote out whatever, whatever was coming out about her, instead of trying what he's saying, allegedly, that she's, falsely claiming things, that it would have blown over. But now, he's got to respond to that, and that's all of this is now coming out. So he's like trying to say she's made it much worse for herself. That's his, there's always two sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth. Lively stole Wayfarer's movie, hijacked Wayfarer's premiere, destroyed the plaintiff's personal and professional reputations and livelihood, and aimed to drive the plaintiff out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with the equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy after plaintiffs. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Department in California, the CRD complaint, in an attempt to use the litigation privilege to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. But upon information and belief, the CRD complaint was filed only after the defendant spent months feeding falsehoods in the New York Times, intending that they be disseminated to damaged plaintiffs. Lively delivered the CRD complaint to the plaintiffs over the Christmas holiday, and rather than promptly file a lawsuit, Lively, on information and belief, leaked the typically private CRD complaint to the public, utilizing the New York Times as a conduit for her revenge. This CRD complaint, and upon information and belief, the false information delivered to the New York Times before the CRD complaint was filed with lies and doctored evidence. Lively then waited 11 days to file. Hold on one second, where are we? Lively then waited 11 days to file a suit against the plaintiffs in what seemed to be a desperate move after the public questioned why she never filed a civil lawsuit. On information and belief, Lively never intended to file a civil lawsuit, which would have triggered the plaintiff's right to discovery, including obtaining evidence and deposing Lively under oath. By the time Lively actually filed a lawsuit against the plaintiffs, the damage to the plaintiffs was done by virtue of Lively's months of colluding with the New York Times on a false and malicious narrative, unshielded by any privilege. Make no mistake, these actions were deliberate. Plaintiffs now have no choice but to fight back, armed only with the truth and the mountain of concrete evidence disproving Lively's allegations. Heartbreakingly, a film that Baldoni envisioned years ago would honor the survivors of domestic violence by telling their story with the lofty goal of making a positive impact in the world has now been overshadowed beyond recognition solely as a result of Lively's actions and cruelty. Lively wields immense power as one of the world's best-known celebrities. In 2024, she used that power to seize control of the film It Ends With Us. Produced and co-financed by the plaintiff, Wayfarer, and directed by Baldoni, who also portrayed the lead, Riley. She set out to destroy the plaintiff's livelihood and businesses if they did not bend to her incessant demands, and when they refused to give way, she did exactly that, accusing them of foul and reprehensible sexual misconduct. Wayfarer was blindsided when Lively, upon the conclusion of the industry strikes, refused to return to production, absent the company's agreeing to her non-negotiable protections for return to production. The return to production demands that insinuating misconduct had occurred during filming, which, as evidence will establish, did not. Wayfarer was equally blindsided when Lively leveraged this document, essentially signed under duress, to seize control of the film, ultimately getting her own cut of the film and a coveted PGA mark, and at her command ousting Baldoni from all marketing and promotional efforts, with many of the cast members and the author, all of whom he until then had long-standing positive relationships with. Lively's exclusion of Baldoni from the promotion of the film backfired, as she chose to callously promote her hair care and alcoholic beverage products rather than bring attention to survivors of domestic violence. The entire premise of the film, Baldoni, now prohibited from attending events or taking photos with Lively and the cast, promoted the film as he always intended, ever since he first began the process of making the film years ago. When Lively faced significant public backlash from what was often referred to as her tone-deaf and insensitive press tour for the film, she doubled down on her false and misleading accusations against Baldoni. She seemed determined to make Baldoni the real-life villain in her story. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to propagate malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator, a term Lively's husband Ryan Reynolds also used to describe Baldoni when he called Baldoni's own agent. Modern society justly reviles sexual harassers and abusers, and Lively knew full well that making those allegations would be a career death sentence for the plaintiffs, especially given that Baldoni has lived his private and public life as an impassioned advocate for gender equality and healthy masculinity. She did not expect, however, that plaintiffs would be able to meet those allegations with concrete documentary evidence, disproving her claims and demonstrating that they, not Lively, were the targets of a calculated and vitriolic smear campaign. The evidence included, in part herein, in the basis for plaintiffs' claims against the defendants for their extortion, defamation, and further wrongdoing. The film was the hotly anticipated adaptation of the worldwide best-selling book by Colleen Hoover, and by starring in it as Lily, Lively stood to enhance her already considerable star power. But she was not content merely to headline one of the year's biggest movies. Instead, apparently driven by the overweening ambition and need for control, Lively eventually leveraged her power as a wealthy celebrity to wrest the reins from her co-star and the film's director, Baldoni, insisting on total control of every aspect of the film she could get her hands on, from wardrobe to marketing strategy to music, even creating her own cut of the film. Not only did Lively's power play cost numerous people their jobs, but at every turn, her wrong-headed creative decisions reflected her fundamental lack of understanding of the book the film was based on. This came as no surprise to her worried colleagues, given that even well into the production, Lively had not even read the book. In a September 14, 2023 text message from Baldoni to Heath, we see that it says that we are rooting to see her fulfill. After rereading the book, which had 150 pages to build their relationship, we have combined scenes to heighten the stakes for Riley in the pursuit of Lily, utilizing humor and his desire to sleep with her. While I understand Blake's reasons for not wanting to read the book does a very good job in getting in Lily's mind during her interactions with Riley and setting up the why behind her attraction to him, which ultimately helps us understand why she stays in the end. Lively's disastrous marketing efforts and tone-deaf press interviews and appearances backfired and led to widespread criticism of Lively's promotional approach to the film's highly sensitive focus on domestic violence. Past videos of Lively resurfaced online, videos that appeared to solidify public perception that Lively was an insensitive mean girl who cared more about peddling her products than acknowledging the domestic violence survivor community. Social media commenters quickly pointed out that her tie-in of her alcoholic beverages was in part particularly poor taste, given the World Health Organization estimates that 55% of domestic violence incidents are linked to alcohol. Unbelievably, Lively made this harmful and irresponsible message worse by naming a drink at her premiere after party, Riley You Wait, after the character who committed domestic violence in the film. The suggestion that Wayfarer caused the online backlash against her is absurd given the evidence of her own insensitivity. Sadly, this backlash could have been avoided had she refused to meet with the film's domestic violence partner organization, nomore.org, as Baldoni had offered. Even a brief visit to their website or a simple online search would have readily uncovered this and other information on the topic of domestic violence. Meanwhile, Baldoni, whom Lively herself had ensured was excluded from participating in the marketing efforts, was safeguarded from the backlash as he focused on amplifying the voices of those affected by domestic violence as originally intended when he reached out to the author Colleen Hoover 5 years earlier and documented by his partnership with nomore.org dating back to 2022. Baldoni's sincere efforts were well received, even more so in contrast with Lively's campaign to downplay the premise of the film and sell hair care and alcohol products. Lively, enraged that her plans were foiled and armed with proof of alleged sexual harassment in the form of a 17-point list of demands that she had required the plaintiffs to sign just months earlier, focused her rage on Baldoni, blaming him for the consequences of her own missteps. Meanwhile, Stephanie Jones, founder of Jones Works, LLC, Wayfarer, and Baldoni's erstwhile PR firm, was embroiled in a personal and professional crisis. Her increasingly erratic behavior had driven away not only high-profile clients, but also her right-hand woman, plaintiff Jennifer Abel, who oversaw the Jones Works Los Angeles office. Jones' behavior grew more and more bizarre as she lashed out at loyal clients like Wayfarer in rage-filled rants and veered away from professional experience and strategy when making critical decisions affecting Jones Works clients. After a final outburst against Wayfarer in which she outright refused to comply with their direct instructions, Wayfarer had no choice but to cut ties with Jones and Jones Works rather than leave their public image in the hands of what appeared to be an out-of-control Jones, whose actions were not aligned with Wayfarer and Baldoni's worldwide and wishes. Jones was filled with impotent rage at Wayfarer and at Abel, who a month before had announced her decision to leave Jones Works to form her own company. Jones saw an opportunity for revenge, and she took it. On information and belief, Jones, Lively, Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan, Lively's publicist, and others concocted a plan whereby Jones would seize Abel's phone upon her departure and mine it for messages that, stripped of context, could be used to concoct a false narrative that the disastrous press coverage of Lively's callous and opportunistic comments and the public reaction to those comments were not Lively's fault at all, but the result of a calculated, though in reality non-existent, smear campaign by Baldoni and his team. On information and belief, Jones's role in this scheme accounts for the conspicuous absence from Lively's retelling of events. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that defendants have been working in concert since at least August 21st of 2024, when Sloan boasted to Nathan that she had seen texts and that Nathan would soon be sued. Though Lively claimed Baldoni was the one smearing her, the reality is it was Lively and her team who carefully planned and implemented a vile smear campaign against Baldoni and Wayfarer to deflect attention and blame for Lively's disastrous misjudgments. Lively would recast herself as the long-suffering martyr by portraying Baldoni and Wayfarer as her persecutors. The masterminds behind the smear campaign, the evidence will show, did not exist. Defendant Sloan of Vision PR was all too willing to carry out this strategy, especially once armed with ammunition by Jones, who was bent on revenge against her ex-employee and former client. Shortly after the film's premiere and the public backlash against Lively, together with her husband, defendant Ryan Reynolds, demanded that their talent agency, which also represented Wayfarer and Baldoni, that plaintiffs publicly apologize for so-called mistakes during production in order to deflect the avalanche of negative media coverage of Lively. Reynolds and Lively drafted a statement and demanded that Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath issue that statement requiring them to apologize to the public and fall on their sword despite having done nothing wrong, or else the gloves would come off. Multiple WME executives acknowledged that in their experience, Lively and Reynolds' threats would not be taken lightly, though admitting to false, vague, and unspecified mistakes would be tantamount to admitting to career-ending misconduct. Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath refused to apologize for sins they had never committed. They took a stand knowing full well that Lively and Reynolds would bring the full might of their celebrity artillery against them, and that is precisely what happened. Lively, working with her husband, her publicist, and Jones, among others, set out on a campaign to tar and feather the plaintiffs in the press. They conspired and worked in concert with the New York Times to put out a blockbuster news report as devastating as it was false. They advanced a fabricated narrative in the press that the plaintiffs had sexually harassed Lively and then embarked on a calculated and malicious smear campaign to destroy her reputation. As retaliation for daring to complain about the harassment, defendants laid the trap carefully over a period of months before springing it all at once on the eve of the winter holidays. Just as plainly, they knew full well that their claims were entirely baseless because their own wrongfully obtained evidence proved that neither the alleged sexual harassment nor the accompanying smear campaign against Lively ever existed. Yet Lively moved forward with her plan with ruthless precision, doubling down in the face of abundant evidence, casting doubt on the veracity of her story. Hang on a minute, I want to get back to where I can see the chat in case you have questions. I think that's the chat. I'm trying to see, it's taking a minute to load here.
If you own a home
No, I don't.
in Westchester County or
Yeah,
upstate,
okay, these stupid ads. Trying to find out where my live is. Oh, here it says it. No. Nope. No. It's got to be this one. Okay. Hello. There it is. Okay. Just want to make sure that we're here. Let's see, live. Okay. All of us are so freaking sick. My husband ended up in the hospital for 4 days with low oxygen. Oh, sorry to hear that. Sassy, ow. Is that okay? You don't understand a word of this? You don't understand this? Okay, well, let me explain this to you, okay? There's lawsuits running back and forth, okay? So first, Blake Lively filed, it wasn't even a lawsuit, okay? And then she was ridiculed, like, why didn't she file a lawsuit? So then she filed the lawsuit. Then they fired back at her, okay? Because what she's doing, they were in a movie together, and she says and alleges that she's a victim of sexual harassment from him. Hi, Christine F. And that, he made her do things she didn't want to do on the set. We went through that whole thing. Now he was responding and saying that the PR company, what happened with the PR company is that someone that was working for the PR company ended up screwing over the owner of the PR company. And so when she left to go get her own company, they seized her company phone. And when they seized her company phone, this is Lively's publicist that owned that company, they were able to retrieve certain messages that, cast Baldoni in a bad light. That's what she filed all over that. Then he made a response to that. And now he's filed this $400 million lawsuit against her. And that's what we're looking at right now. And what he's saying is, like I just told you, she could have just written this out, but they're accusing her of creating this whole thing in order to deflect from some criticism she got from the movie. And now it's blown up into something huge. Okay, so here we go. Lively even went so far as to serve her lawsuit on the Los Angeles-based defendants as they evacuated their homes in the midst of devastating fires engulfing the city. On a day when the defendants were gathering their kids and pets, preparing go bags, and monitoring evacuation orders, while fearing for their homes, Lively, from the safety of her penthouse in New York, deployed process servers in the midst of those troubling times. At bottom, this is not a case about celebrities snipping at each other in the press. This is a case about two of the most powerful stars in the world deploying their enormous power to steal an entire film right out of the hands of its director and production studio. Then, when Lively and Reynolds' efforts failed to win them the acclaim they believed they so richly deserved, they turned their fury on their chosen scapegoat, tolerating a year and a half of their behavior while remaining polite and professional at every turn, offered Baldoni and Wayfarer no protection. By bringing the complaint, the plaintiffs commit themselves to seeking and proving the facts based not on insinuations built from selectively edited and context-free text snippets, but by putting all the evidence before the court and the public. When the plaintiffs have their say in court, the jury will recognize that even the most powerful celebrity cannot bend the truth to her will. Baldoni and Wayfarer purchased the rights to It Ends With Us. Baldoni's co-founder Wayfarer in 2019. From the beginning, Wayfarer was dedicated to being a different kind of studio, one that produced world-class entertainment driven by a powerful vision for change. Baldoni, whose film career was dedicated to producing and directing meaningful films to have a positive impact on the world, was deeply moved when he read the book It Ends With Us, and genuinely believed that he could make a film that could save lives. His last two films were created as a result of a deep sense of responsibility to share meaningful stories. Baldoni's feature film, directorial debut, 5 Feet Apart, was based on a young woman, Claire Wineland, who lived with cystic fibrosis and courageously documented her plight on YouTube. Baldoni, his family, and friends developed a friendship with Claire, whose journey deeply inspired Baldoni. Before Claire passed away, Baldoni promised he would tell her story. And he did just that in the film he directed. The film had wide impact on the CF community, and Baldoni still receives messages about the film's impact. Baldoni also supports the foundation yearly and remained close with Claire's parents, even bringing her father and his guests to the premiere of It Ends With Us, Baldoni's more recent film with the Wayfarer film, Clouds, a true story about a teenager with cancer, Zach Sobek, who finds joyful purpose and inspiration in music. In pursuit of the same vision, in 2019, Wayfarer acquired the film rights to It Ends With Us, a Colleen Hoover novel published in 2016. Though positioned as a romance novel, the book explores themes of domestic violence and generational patterns of abuse, and these messages resounded deeply with readers and drew a passionate fan base. In 2001, the novel exploded in popularity thanks to the social media phenomenon Book Talk. Many fans expressed how important the book was to them as survivors of domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. When It Ends With Us, author Colleen Hoover watched 5 Feet Apart in theaters, she told Baldoni, "You are the right person to make this movie," referring to It Ends With Us. Baldoni's early emails to Hoover demonstrate his commitment to doing so in the manner he envisioned would be most impactful. In fact, it was Hoover who suggested that Baldoni portray Riley. And this here is an email that was on February 1st, 2019. And it's from Justin Baldoni to Colleen Hoover, the author. And he says, "Hello, Colleen. Thank you for the introduction." I guess that says it's kind of intro. It's redacted. "Wow, it's such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for being open to having me potentially option your book. Some quick backstory. My purpose and intention in this insane business are simple. Create impact by making content that helps us remember our shared humanity. Content that asks us to be better, to make the hard choice in the moment that one day, on our deathbeds, we will be grateful for. It's been a tough road, but an incredible one, as our industry doesn't often reward those of us trying to change culture. Luckily, it's the messages of those that watch the content that are the reward and the lives we have affected. I've always believed the financial reward will come, but it's not the primary motivation. As Joanna may have told you, I am building and got funding for a company whose mission to tell high-end, meaningful stories, and I just finished my first film, with my second set up at WB going this fall, based on this short doc directed 7 years ago. Also, if you would like to see an early screening of 5 Feet Apart, I'm sure I could make that happen as well. Where are you based? Just wanted to say the reviews I read for the book, this one stood out to me and makes me so excited to potentially work with you. Your fans love you. What a gift you have." And it says here, "Of all the heroines I've ever read, Lily was most certainly one of the ones I admired the most. I knew loved her from the first few pages, but having finished the book, I just couldn't be prouder of her. Her strength and conviction over the course of this story made her into a heroine I'd want every girl and woman to read about and look up to. She was so real and vulnerable, as we all are, but the strength with which she took control of her life was admirable on such a deep level. I just wanted to hug her and cheer. I don't think I've ever been this proud of a fictional character before." There is an incredibly powerful message in this book that is very subtly woven in from the start. It begins in the first chapter, but you don't yet realize how significant each of those moments truly are. And as you read more, these pieces of the story come together, forming a scenario that gives such a raw, honest portrayal of the incredibly relevant issue. I'm not mentioning it on purpose because I don't want you to expect it. The fact that it's unexpected for you as the reader is very important, because it's very unexpected for the heroine. As she begins to realize what kind of situation she's in, so do you. And the realization very much allows you to experience her journey within her. Yes, please send over an ebook, but I just purchased it on paperback as I like supporting authors. Looking forward, Justin. Okay, and then another email on Thursday, April 11, 2019, Justin and Colleen. I'm finally coming up for air from the release of the film, but still shooting Jane for another 2 weeks. By the way, were you able to see it? Would love to know your thoughts. We actually started filming the final episode today. Crazy. So grateful. So I haven't been able to get It Ends With Us off my mind. Such an important story. So damn romantic and beautiful and tragic and hopeful. I always say that both in art and life, all the best stories are always two things at once. And this is so much what your book is. Joy and pain, love and sorrow. You did such a beautiful job of covering incredibly difficult subject matter and playing it out in a realistic and unforgettable way. But what I love the most is the opportunity to let so many women feel seen on the screen via the particular story. I can't even imagine how many women there are who are stuck in a relationship like this, and via the story could find strength to create a better life for themselves, for their children. There are just so many opportunities to partner and with organizations and create impact with a story like this. I love that you held nothing back from the pain of Lily and Riley's past. I love that they really are no bad guys, and that we are the sons of our experience and our trauma. I love the opportunity for narration and the stunning and gorgeous impact of the title payoff at the end. These are the kind of stories that change and save lives, and I believe the story is in particular can continue to have a huge impact on the world. So if you will have me, I would love to option it from you. On a separate note, the screenplay to 5 Feet Apart was adapted into a novel and has been on the New York Times bestseller list since before the release of the movie last month. I know you have your charity, and I would be happy to donate some signed copies for the bookworm box. Let me know what you think. Much love, Justin. Justin Baldoni, we are Wayfarer. Okay, now this is from Colleen, April 11, 2019, to Justin. Thank you so much for the email. I wasn't expecting you to read it so quickly. I would love to talk with you more about the project. You get the book, and that's the most important thing to me. My big fear is that I'll option it to someone who thinks it's a hot romance, and they'll take it into the absolute wrong direction. I'm going to be upfront with you about a couple of things so you can decide if you want to move forward. I've got several film options, and I realize not all of them get made, and I'm okay with that. One of the film options was not a great experience. The producers started a fundraising campaign for the film without my knowledge or permission beforehand, and ended up taking over $100,000 from my readers. The film was never made. My option was never paid, and I ended up pulling the plug on the project, and the producers never refunded the readers their money. I felt terrible that my readers were the ones punished, so I mailed out $15,000 worth of free products to those who donated to their campaign. I want to be positive that crowdsourcing is not something that will be done when it comes to this film. It's important to me that a funding plan is in place that won't affect the supporters of this book. While the experience wasn't a positive one, I had a wonderful experience working with a producer on Confess. It was a 7-episode series that was picked up by Awestruck and Go90, but unfortunately, right before it released, Go90 declared that they were shutting down. Because of that, Confess released on an already defunct platform just a week before they were scheduled to shut down. Luckily, my readers got to watch it, so not all was lost after the overall experience was so much fun and very surreal. I didn't really have a lot of involvement because reading the script and getting the dailies, I just handed it over and let them do their thing because I was immersed in other projects at the time. It Ends With Us is important to me, though. I would love more involvement on this film. I've actually been working on a script for it already, along with a producer friend of mine who lives here in LA. Her name is redacted, and she is a very dear friend of mine and is a huge fan and supporter of the book. We sat down for a week and outlined it last month, but I had to put a pause on it because I'm on a deadline for this book I'm writing. We planned on picking it back up in 2 weeks and dividing it. Even though I'm the author, I believe I've been able to separate myself enough from the format of the book to know that would make the best setup for the film. While I do want to please the readers and have read the book, I understand the need to make a film that will equally touch those who haven't read the book. Are you based out of Los Angeles? Maybe we can meet and have a chat about your vision for the film to make sure we're on the same page. I'm out of Texas, but I'm in LA a lot. Other than ensuring my readers won't be asked to donate to the fundraising for a film and hoping to have more involvement in the process when it comes to the script and production, I don't really have any other requests. I realize your experience with film far outweighs mine. And based on the magnificent adaptation you did of 5 Feet Apart, I'm confident that you could do this book justice and that our visions will align. I watched the film 2 nights ago and immediately started the book yesterday. Sometimes I'd like to do it backwards. I think you did a wonderful job, and even though I'm not finished with the book yet, I feel like the essence of it was captured beautifully through film. I wrote a book where one of the characters suffers from CF, so I've done a lot of research on the subject and thought Rachel and you did such a amazing portrayal of what of what carriers of CF go through. In fact, our very first donation through the Bookworm box was to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. We donated in honor of the child of one of my readers. His name is redacted, and he is just incredibly inspiring kid. Check out his video. Okay. It's actually funny you emailed me when you did. When the email came through on my phone, I was on your website, browsing Wayfarer. Loved the hashtag #MeToo chat. Okay, that's enough rambling. I really do appreciate the email and appreciate you taking a chance on reading the book. My readers are so ready to support this book, and it has meant so much to so many of them. So naturally, I want them to be happy, and I want to bring them an adaptation that they'll be proud of. Did you happen to read the author's note at the end of this novel? It's a quick read if you didn't get the chance to read it. My mother inspired this book, so maybe that's why I've been so hesitant to sell the rights to it in the past. I felt good about this, though. I felt good about you. I've seen your past work, your passion and your love for humanity, and I honestly feel that there's no one better for the project. Before I direct you to my agent, I just want to get your thoughts on the above. Thanks so much, Justin. I hope you and your family were able to get some vacation time. And then she signed it Colleen, and she said, however this works out, I would love books for the bookstore. In fact, we just started a box and would love to feature 5 feet apart in the subscription box. If there's any way we can buy a few hundred copies at cost. Everyone needs this book in their possession. And then another email from Colleen to Justin. Have you given any thought to whether you would want an acting role in this? Say, maybe Riley. I could see it. Soon after, Wayfarer partnered with Sony to co-finance and distribute the film. Hold on, I gotta make this a little bit smaller because it's not all showing up. Okay. To co-finance and distribute the film, their agreement included, at Wayfarer and Baldoni's insistence, that the provision was a deal breaker. A requirement that 1% of the film's proceeds be donated in support of survivors of domestic abuse. That 1% was ultimately earmarked for the organization No More, with which Baldoni had sought to partner with as early as September of 2022. As they began making the film, Baldoni and Wayfarer felt an immense responsibility to do justice not only to the story of the protagonist, Lily Bloom, but to the stories of the survivors around the world. Plaintiff Health CEO of Wayfarer expressed to Forbes on June 28, 2024, that his high hopes for the film. I hope that people leave the theater feeling inspired. That for those who have been hurt, that they feel seen and the story was told in a way that honored them. I feel like people who may in themselves as someone, I think they may see themselves as someone that may hurt somebody, may think twice about it. So I hope that people leave feeling like they got a glimpse into a world that oftentimes we turn our eyes away from. In casting Blake Lively, a world-renowned actor with talent and charisma, in the leading role, they entrusted her with that vision to bring Lily to life. Although Wayfarer learned that Lily had a reputation for being difficult to work with, Baldoni at the time was not dissuaded and found her to be genuine. During pre-production, Baldoni and Lively began a promising and close collaboration. On or about December 31st, 2022, Lively agreed to take the lead role of Lily Bloom. As part of the subsequent negotiations, Lively was granted an executive producer credit, as a title often given to talent of her stature. Lively had requested a producer credit, but Wayfarer and Sony demurred, given that such a title would not accurately reflect the role she was asked to play in the production. Wayfarer did not request nor require that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her roles as actor and executive producer. In the beginning, it appeared that Baldoni and Lively would have a positive, collaborative, creative partnership. Baldoni and Lively worked closely in the early days of the film, trading ideas about filling key roles in the film's cast and crew. The working relationship grew close. Baldoni and Lively shared stories about pictures from their lives, commiserated over family illnesses, and exchanged jokes and memes. Baldoni offered concern and support when Lively faced family health concerns. They texted almost daily, and a friendly banter established a comfortable dynamic that, under typical circumstances, would have made working together easy. Lively even felt comfortable enough to make silly jokes, redirecting a sweet compliment Baldoni gave. And this is Justin Baldoni says, well played. Blake says, I feel the same. It's such a good feeling to get work done that we're proud of and to do it together. It just clicks when we find it. And that's just as rewarding as filming it, or editing it, or marketing it, or releasing it. This is all storytelling. This is why we do it. Thank you for your collaboration. I'm really proud of what we're doing. And then he says, loved. I felt the same. It's such a good feeling to get. I like sentimental Blake. She says never met her. He said, I also like a-hole Blake. Don't worry. Okay. Good night. This was the nature of their relationship, which made Lively's later allegations all the more baffling. Lively begins asserting control almost immediately. Almost immediately, Lively begins inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways, well beyond the scope of her contractual entitlements. For example, Lively began to insist on creative control over the character's wardrobe. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over the character's general look, they generally do not receive full control over wardrobe decisions. Without input from the director or producers, what may seem like an innocuous request can in fact have monumental impact on the film's production. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disposing of the weeks of effort and creativity spent by the wardrobe team on shopping and carefully crafting her wardrobe, Lively sent thousands of images to the film's costume designer, including into the late hours of the evening, depicting the style of wardrobe she wanted for her character. The costume designer had to reshop Lively's wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources. Where did we get to resources? Oh, here. While also preparing wardrobes to the rest of the cast, at one point Lively insisted that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes. Despite being a fledgling small business owner, this forced Baldoni to rethink the entire script that had been in the works for well over a year and was approved by both Sony and Wayfarer, a script that Wayfarer had commissioned multiple drafts of and incorporated countless notes, including input from the book's author, Colleen Hoover. The wardrobe budget ballooned. Lively often refused to participate in wardrobe fittings, at the production office, which was a mere 15 minutes from Lively's home. Instead, she insisted that the costume department pack up wardrobe and deliver it to her personal residence. Loading the wardrobe department on trucks and delivering the contents to Lively's home in the middle of congested Manhattan for fittings cost time and money, always in supply of any major film requests. Hi, little lady. Hi, it's just me. Where did we just go there? Okay. Requests of this nature are typically made during contract negotiations. Since Lively made no such request at the time, this added expense was not included in the budget. Lively, who had a greater obligation to the studios as an executive producer, paid no heed to budget constraints, let alone to months of planning that had already been completed. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of their working relationship and to avoid further delays caused by wardrobe conflicts, Baldoni and the studio reluctantly ceded full control to Lively over her wardrobe. The concession quickly proved regrettable. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively in character wearing her hand-picked wardrobe. These images were widely reported as unflattering and sparked a backlash from Sony. So it's on the first day of the principal photography, the paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively. So she picked this wardrobe, then the paparazzi got pictures of it, and they claimed these images were widely reported as unflattering. And it was a backlash. It got a backlash from Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced serious concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public reception. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss the necessary wardrobe adjustments and resetting their relationship to assert his role as director and his need to have approval over her wardrobe. The conversation, while professional, took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in Lively's CRD complaint, which falsely characterized the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused the crew to wait for hours while Baldoni cried in Lively's dressing room. On information and belief, Lively circulated this false account to the New York Times with the intention and result that it be widely published. The conversation did not take hours, and any length of time it took was not because Baldoni cried for hours. In truth, rather than take heed of the concerns of the film's distributor, Baldoni and director, Lively took time to, among other things, suggest to Baldoni that he was being gaslit by Sony, Heath and the other producers, and try to convince him to let her continue to take the helm. Baldoni did briefly become emotional during the conversation, but only in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Lively, praising his work as the director and actor. In hindsight, this was part and parcel of the ongoing pattern of manipulation and gaslighting by Lively, intended to continue to allow her autonomy over her wardrobe. Lively later distorted the conversation in support of the baseless harassment allegations, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni, the film's director, was relaying the distributor's concerns and the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure to meet audience expectations. A sentiment Baldoni shared. The incident is just one of many examples of Lively's troubling pattern of manipulation and lies. And another example, early in the pre-production stage, Lively sent Baldoni a long text describing how directors never permitted her to write scenes for the movies she acted in, nor gave her the writing credits, even making her hand scribble her suggestions for lines so that they could not be traced to her. Lively boasted that she had even written for her husband's movies, and then Lively asked if she could take a pass at writing the rooftop scene because it ends with us, in which the characters Riley and Lily first meet. The pivotal scene, much beloved by book fans, was critical for setting the tone of the movie. So Baldoni was reluctant to allow an actor rather than a union screenwriter to rewrite the key scene. But Baldoni felt the need to allow Lively to rewrite the scene and agreed to take a look at what she put together. The draft of the rooftop scene that Lively sent Baldoni dramatically differed from what had been written originally. Baldoni was hesitant about many of the changes, but thanked Lively for her passion and diplomatically told her that the scene would likely end up being somewhere between the original version and Lively's version. Seemingly stung by Baldoni's exceedingly mild resistance, Lively did not respond and went silent for multiple days. Lively, she confirmed in a text message below, that Baldoni's response of course didn't feel great for me. Or another mega celebrity friend, and Ryan Reynolds, to have my passion praised instead of my specific contribution. Lively was referring to an earlier meeting where Lively summoned Baldoni to her New York penthouse, where Baldoni was greeted by Ryan Reynolds, who launched into enthusiastic praise for Lively's version of the scene. Hours later, as the meeting was ending, a famous and famously close friend of Ryan's, Reynolds, and Lively, walked into the room and similarly began praising Lively's script. Baldoni understood the subtext. He needed to comply with Lively's direction for the script. Okay, so everybody was talking about her script. They, Reynolds and the mega celebrity friend, also know that I am not always good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the case of the process. They don't give a shite about that, and because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. I don't know. Emoji. This message could not have been clearer. Baldoni was not dealing with Lively. He was also facing Lively's dragons, two of the most influential and wealthy celebrities in the world, who were not afraid to make things very difficult for him. Okay, here's a text. This is from Blake in the gray and Justin in the blue. If you send me the FDX, I'll work when I can steal moments. And yes, of course, please send to Christy. We're all on the same team with the same goal. And he says, great. Also, was working on the rooftop scene today. I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. You really are a talent across the board. Really excited and grateful to do this together. And she writes back, that's very appreciated and means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside of the success of this book. We have such an opportunity to not only surprise people who love the book, but reach an even bigger audience by making an undeniable, dynamic, and also commercial film. The moment that excited me most the other day was when you said, you're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene. You know it, I'm sure, even though it was said in playful self-deprecation that we all participate in. It made me think of the process as a whole. Please know I trust that on that day, you've got me. And I hope that you trust that I've got you if you want it. We're in this together, and we are two of the most determined people I know. We also have very high bars set for ourselves. To collaborate with that type of partner is a gift that neither of us will squander, because we both care too much about the result and also the experience. I have no motives except for you to win. As a director, as an actor, as a studio, as a writer, if you win, I win. If you win, our movie wins. We are aligned, and I will bring everything I have to this. You moved from the north to the south? It's just me. Hi, it's just me. Hi, Christine F. As for Redacted and Ryan, this is Blake Lavian saying, and Redacted for that matter, I'm the luckiest MFer on the planet to have them as my dance moms level. That said, they're also my most trusted, as my dance moms level stage moms. They are embarrassingly, what is that? Effusive. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch. And I'm the person they each go to first. The reciprocal creativity and support has been one of life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages, I felt good to send them to you. They asked, what you thought specifically after. They checked in so many times. I told them that you laughed a bunch and said, "It's probably a blend that you appreciate my passion so much," which of course didn't feel great for me or them to have my passion be praised instead of any specific contribution, or even just that you didn't like the pages, which was fine also. So I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work, because they've been on my side for far too many experiences where I've been overlooked. I spoke to you about this when we first met. They've watched me hand write scripts because the director is too afraid to send the FDX file, yet he scans and has someone hand type all 120 pages of my pencil rewrites. They've watched me be hired as a writer and paid a significant fee for it, but on the condition that I never ask for credit, which I could give a shite about. It's more the principle of the dynamics at play. They've watched the other side of it too, where I'm told at signing on that I'm wanted as a true collaborator, but once we get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man, audience and actor. Both Ryan and Redacted have established themselves as absolute titans at writing, as writers and storytellers outside of their primary gig. Just signing or just acting or just directing. I'm so happy to have them as creative barometers, but also to have them as the people who prop me up and make sure I'm seen for all I can and do offer, because they know firsthand all I can contribute. They also know that I'm not always good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shite about that, and because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. Difficult proved to be a gross understatement. Though Baldoni initially invited Lively to make changes to the script, Lively began altering the script daily. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed the producers, director, and studio, who anticipated that her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the carefully planned production schedule. Each shooting day was intricately scheduled long in advance, and Lively's constant changes placed significant stress on the production crew, not to mention financial strain on Wayfarer. Okay, this is the producer. May 1st, 2023. Are you listening to this? She's fixing the script. I think Agnes's advice was actually wrong. Blake is now directing the movie. This is bad. And then we have Jamie Heath. I'm listening. Talking through it is better than not. Seeing what's possible, as long as any decision is done with approval. Producer. Not for something that was already intimately planned. This will be every day of the shoot. And he says, I know. I'm not sure what can be done honestly at this point in terms of something Blake. More than a year later, during a red carpet interview at the New York premiere, Lively stated, the iconic rooftop scene, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you know. This startling revelation directly contradicted Lively's previous insistence that she had written the scene, and certainly cast Reynolds high praise for the rewritten scene in a different light. The film credited screenwriter, when asked about the claim that Reynolds had written the scene, graciously responded, so if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful. She went on to acknowledge, there were a few little flourishes that I did not write, and if those flourishes came from Ryan, I think that's wonderful. This was also the first time the plaintiffs learned that Reynolds, who had no formal role whatsoever in the film's production, had made unauthorized changes to the script in secret. Baldoni, equally blindsided by this news, which he discovered in real time during a recorded interview with Access Hollywood, reacted by also praising Reynolds so as not to harm Lively. Reynolds, who apparently wrote the scene, and possibly others during the WGA strike or the film. Lively's remarks about Ryan's purported contribution to the script raised eyebrows sky high at Sony, who told Wayfarer that they certainly needed some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing writing services for the rooftop scene. Okay, here's another email, and this is from Sony Legal Affairs, and I don't know who this is to because we can't see it at all. Oh, Wayfarer Counsel. Hi. We certainly need some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing writing services for the rooftop scene. Can you provide additional information on this, as there are no contracts, his services are not in the chain, nor is his name anywhere in the credits. One of the many media reports which cite this claim made by Blake Lively. Thanks for clarifying. If services were rendered, obviously we required signed documentation immediately. Okay, then there's another email. Wayfarer team to the Sony Legal. Hello. Your email was shared with me by Redacted in order to address the issues. We are not aware of any writing services rendered by Ryan Reynolds, regardless of what is being said publicly. This is not something we were aware of. We are learning about these allegations in real time. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. Okay. Still, during the pre-production phase, Lively and Reynolds raised entirely false allegations of fat shaming against Baldoni, an accusation that, as evidence will show, was categorically false. Baldoni has been introduced to trainer Don, who has become Baldoni's personal trainer by Lively. Don directed Baldoni's preparation for the film role, including his nutrition and exercise, making special accommodations for Baldoni's back injury. Baldoni even paid to receive Don's meal delivery service. Okay, so here we have Don and who's okay. Okay, speak later today. I can get you a program this week. Sure, just got to NYC for the day. Hey, bud, tried you. Call you in a few. And then there's a program. And then it says, here you go, 4 things. The jumps are to be low intensity, and this is to improve performance. Go 50% for the first few weeks. Let's sub the dead stop rows for chest supported rows. Stay out of the lumbar extension. Your back should not arch. Week 1 should be 70 to 80% intensity. Do not push and add the cardio like we suggested. Let's just jump on a call after you review. Amazing. Can't wait to check it out. Thank you. Privately, Baldoni reached out to Don as his personal trainer to ask what Lively weighed so that he could train his back muscles in preparation for a lift scene. This was important to avoid injury, not only to Baldoni, who suffered from lifelong back injuries, multiple bulging discs, and chronic pain, but also to Lively if the lift could not be completed successfully and safely. Notwithstanding Lively's recent attempts to deny the existence of any such scene, it was only nixed at her insistence after having been planned and rehearsed. Hello, Kevin Leonard. Okay. The next morning, Baldoni was summoned to the penthouse by Lively and greeted by Reynolds, who swore at Baldoni and accused him of fat-shaming his wife. How dare you effing ask about my wife's weight? What's wrong with you? The confrontation from Reynolds and Lively was so aggressive that Baldoni felt he had no choice but to offer repeated and completely unwarranted apologies for what was a good faith and reasonable question to ask of his trainer. Reynolds demanded Baldoni remove the scene entirely. Lively refused to perform the lift scene at the end, even after it was rehearsed with a stunt double. In her own complaint, Lively flat out lies about the absence of this scene by claiming the scene wasn't in the film. The only reason the scene wasn't in the film is because Lively and Reynolds ensured it was taken out of the film. Accommodating Lively, Baldoni rewrote the scene with Lively, despite the fact that for creative reasons, the scene was important to him as a storyteller and a director. In fact, Lively had earlier expressed insecurity about her postpartum figure, and Baldoni made every attempt to genuinely reassure her. In this exchange, he stated, as her director, that anything you feel insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing that you need. When he later tried to do just that, Lively responded with allegations of sexual harassment followed by a lawsuit. Okay, Blake Lively says, kicking A, but it's still a ton of work and with not a ton of time. What's the chance we can do body scenes at the end of the schedule? And Justin says, I'm sure you are. Honestly, there's 1 billion moving parts to schedule right now. I just turned in the rewrite, and so they are hard at work. So much of it, that's redacted, comes down to locations and the other cast availability. So to be really honest, I have no clue. I want you to know you will look amazing. Anything you're insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. As soon as I have a rough schedule that's even remotely accurate, I'll share it and I'll make you and make sure the team keeps this in mind as well. Oh, shoot. Hold on a minute. Okay, so then we go back to Blake Lively. What happened? You slept 5 hours when? Just now you slept 5 hours? I don't know. You slept 5 hours that time. What do you mean that time? What time? I'm lost. Okay, never mind. Blake Lively says, thank you for your voice memo. It is deeply appreciated. You are everything you promised to be as a collaborator. Thank you. I know my job here, and this piece is in a big part of my job here. We both understand the assignment as actors in the roles, but also as producers and also as marketers. We also artistically, yes, but we get what we need to do in all aspects for this movie commercially. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. It's a part of the job that we both excitedly signed up for. I don't shy away from it because it's not problematic. It's the assignment. Like when someone is about to start an athletic event. It's their job to be in top shape. My husband and I both look at certain roles as athletic events, and this is one of them. It's not always a part of the job, but on this one it is, and that's great. As much as I'd like to not think about it, that would be irresponsible and also impossible because it's unrealistic to not acknowledge what I need to do. This is my job here, and I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. I look for solutions to achieve my high goals instead of lowering my goals. We all win when we're all each firing at our highest capabilities, and you and I both are. And will continue to. I just need as much time as possible because I just had my 4th baby. I understand You'll never personally know all the nuances of the challenges unless you lived this physical moment in time. I'm in with this physical road ahead, so having your understanding and support to help me pull this off is critical and very, very appreciated. Not just in my experience now, but also healing from experiences past. So, thank you. We are going to kill it and be so fit that they have to Lola us to look less banging. Lively then delivered an ultimatum. If Baldoni could not get on board with her work methods, he had 2 weeks to recast her. Implicit in this ultimatum was a threat to destroy Baldoni's reputation and career. As Lively well knew, Baldoni has worked hard throughout his career to earn and desire a reputation based on his passionate advocacy for women's rights, a reputation she would later exploit and weaponize against him. If Lively were to back out of the film, especially based on the accusations of fat-shaming, Baldoni's reputation and life's work would be left in tatters. He had no choice but to bow to Lively and Reynolds' demands. Concerns about Lively's undue influence over the film began to grow even before filming started. Okay, now we have another text. Producer. He cannot let her have opinions on everything. Jamie Heath. Blake? Producer. Or she's going to be co-directing this film. Yes. Heath. Yeah, we were talking about that a lot yesterday. Producer. Exactly. This is why everyone is starting to lose it. We have been talking about the same thing for months. Jamie Heath. Yep, it's starting to get resolved. Producer. No, it's not. This is the first time Lively openly moved to seize control of the film from Baldoni. But it would not be the last. Filming begins as Lively builds her takeover strategy. Principal photography began for the film in early May of 2023. On set, Lively continued to maintain what later appeared to be a facade of a close, caring relationship with Baldoni, even as she continued to make escalating demands for creative control. By the time production began, Lively and Baldoni had worked closely together for months, and Lively expressed warm gratitude for her collaboration with Baldoni on the eve of the filming. This note means so much to me. I'm excited to start tomorrow, but it's only one piece of the journey. We started months ago, and I'm grateful for all that we built so far. Thank you for caring so much and for putting every bit of you into showing it. You have given so much of your time to fight for great, and that hasn't gone unappreciated or unseen for a moment. Let's do this shite. From Blake to Justin. Priority normal. Okay, that's it. Throughout the first filming period, Lively continued to share her open and unguarded thoughts on life and her character. She talked about wardrobe choices to make her character much sexier. We'll show you both ways, but Beanie is much sexier. It's the look. Feels TV without, especially with a crop top in the snow. It justifies the rest of the skin, and also as a girl I would check out walking down the street because it washes the effort off the rest of the look. Lively continued to express her warm appreciation and respect for Baldoni as filming continued, even as she acknowledged she could be difficult and critical of others using the kind of language she herself would have alleged to be inappropriate. Justin says, I'm not going to tell you that you were amazing because you tease me for being so sentimental, but you were amazing today. She says, thank you, I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster, but it means a lot to me. I care a great deal, and I always want to deliver. You were terrific. I'm proud of everything we did today, but really every day. He says, loved. Thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball bus. Thank you. And they said, Lively's use of the word ballbuster would certainly have made it onto her 17-point list had it been Baldoni who said it. Lively's intimate comfort with Baldoni continued as filming progressed. In June of 2023, after the alleged harassment and uncomfortable situations alleged occurred, she even invited Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse while pumping breast milk. I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out our lines. Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. They laughed deliriously during late-night writing sessions. All of these events took place after the alleged sexual harassment. Lively's accusations seemed to come out of the blue. She even knew his tea order. En route to you, can I get you anything? And that is Justin. No, all good. Thank you, though. I'm getting you a hot matcha. And do you know what Brandon likes? Lively herself set the tone for personal discussions on set, including what language was acceptable. For example, on one occasion, while filming a restaurant scene, Lively sat on the floor in painfully expensive shoes while discussing with a group of male cast and crew how sexy her shoes were. Lively had no issue with using the word sexy herself, but apparently took note both times Baldoni said the word in her presence. Though she was loose and relaxed in her speech on set, she was increasingly stringent in the demands she imposed on the production. She rewrote her own dialogue constantly and took it upon herself to make unilateral changes to other characters' lines, effectively rewriting the script day by day. This pattern of domineering interference caused unending interruptions to the production process, leading to entirely unnecessary stress, chaos, and delays. It is well documented on film footage how frequently she requested changes and how, at every turn, Baldoni took her thoughts and, out of fear of repercussions from Lively and her allies, he consistently tried to accommodate them. During labor strikes, Lively moves to seize absolute power. On May 2nd, 2023, the Writers Guild of America went on strike. Production on the film halted temporarily on June 14th, 2023, due to the WGA picketing. The next day, the production was notified that the WGA had agreed not to picket their set, allowing production to continue, but Lively was already gone and refused to return to the production immediately. Wayfarer reworked the shooting schedule at great expense to film the scenes with the younger versions of the characters instead of footage requiring Lively. On June 27, 2023, production shut down entirely for the pendency of the strike. The SAG AFTRA strike soon followed, beginning on July 14th. To make the most of the time during the strike, Baldoni began editing the footage that they had captured to date, starting the director's process of turning footage into film. Lively expressed excitement over returning to shoot in the fall in New York, making no mention of any discomfort or harassment that would be brought up only later, after months of being apart on the day the strikes ended. But and during the strikes, Lively's eager involvement in the production took on a more insistent, manipulative tone as she asked for access to the dailies and early cuts of the scenes, both inappropriately and unorthodox requests. Hey, and this is from Justin, would you mind giving me, no, this is participant Justin. It's from Blake to Justin, sorry. Hey, would you mind giving me access to dailies? I'm curious which takes you liked of scenes you showed. My manager flew out to visit set and leaves tomorrow a.m. He heard all about it from Warren, and I'd love to show him. I appreciate you may be too slammed right now to make this happen, but maybe someone else can facilitate. Thanks so much. Dailies refers to raw footage of what was filmed that day, including the many takes that is not shared with the cast. This again is from Blake. Hey, I hope you and your family are well. I watched the select you sent. So great. I was so happy and energized. Such solid work from everyone on and off camera. It was really cool to see. We were working so quickly, there was never the time to look back. So it was nice to revisit from an audience's perspective. Please let me know who to reach out to get access to the full gallery of dailies. I'm so looking forward to seeing all we have in the can. And of course, any scenes you cut together, I'd love to see. Hope you're having a good summer and hopefully a good edit with will your assembly be done soon. Wayfarer, Baldoni, and another producer on the film strategized about how to respond to Lively, which became common practice so as not to trigger backlash from Lively. The text exchange below demonstrates adamant objections to giving Lively the dailies. Not only was it an appropriate overreach, but there was a very real concern that a simple task, such as rewriting a couple of scenes, would turn into a complete takeover, rewriting the script. They rightly feared that giving her the dailies could turn her into her demanding to edit the whole movie, which was exactly what ultimately happened. So this is from, let's see, no, these are just the same things. That's the one she asked for the dailies. And the producer said, I'd say no, but check her contract first. I was waiting for someone to respond first. This is Heath. It's an absolute no for me as well. Respectfully, not sure best way to respond, being how delicate this is. Producer says, I think you cannot respond until tomorrow. Or say that you need to talk to the team, or just say that you're not comfortable with it. And then he says, maybe we can make this a Sony decision, and you can respond with that for now. Justin says, thank you, spoke to someone. I think I'm going to say yes and send a playlist of a bunch of good takes from different scenes that last for 3 or 4 days. Someone said no, LOL. Producer said, we all said no, and you're going to send? No, she liked the idea of a playlist. No to access to all the dailies. I wasn't clear in text. Producer says, okay, copy. Makes sense. And then it says, basically, send her a playlist of what I showed her agent. And then if or when she responds and says, can you send me anything, that's what I'll say. I'm not comfortable with that, as I haven't even seen anything. Redacted believes that she will then start to edit the movie and tell me which takes to use if she has access to anything. Producer says, yes, I agree with that. He says also, that is exactly how the writing process started. She asked if it was okay if she could take a pass at some dialogue tweaks on the rooftop scene. Just talked to Blake. She's in very good spirits and seems happy about this. Very nice conversation. After consulting internally as to how to respond, Baldoni politely pushed back, explaining that it It was much too early in the editing process to share much footage. Okay, so this is from Justin. Hi, sorry for the slow response. Yes, family is good. Brutal being away for so long and happy we are finally together. Lots happening. All good things overall. Had to hire new editors who I adore. They are going through everything now. I'm so happy you felt energized by what you saw. Your performance is really, really beautiful. Stunning, actually. Read dailies. Obviously, you know I want your input. That's why I sent the 5-hour playlist. But at this point, it's too early for me to share all the dailies. I start my cut in early August, given the new editors, and I'm still going to be going through the rest myself. Also, figuring out our shooting plan as I have to cut and combine and find ways to scale down per budget. Once I am physically on the edit and have touched scenes myself, I'd love to share with you. I hope you enjoy this time off with your family. Talk soon. At that point, Lively reluctantly paid normal lip service to the notion that Baldoni, the film's director, was entitled to the time and space needed for his directorial cut, but continued to push. I don't want to infringe on your time with your cut, of course. I don't feel the need to send me cutscenes. I was just excited to see. Read the dailies. None of the producers have access to the dailies. It's just you. Baldoni shared limited scenes with Lively, feeling uncomfortable all the while, yet he already knew that he had to bow to Lively's demands in order to get out the film and its powerful message. Finally, he put his foot down, sending Lively one final scene and then telling her he would not be sending any more cuts until he was finished his editorial process. Sorry, back-to-back meetings. All good. Love the excitement, and I'm excited to show you when the time is right. No, not just me. Redacted and Jamie have access to the dailies, but not assemblies or cuts. Happy birthday, Blake. Coincidentally, today is the last day of my edit as we are closing the room until we shoot again. It's been wildly successful, and I'm so happy. You are so fantastic in the film. I'm sending you over one of my favorite sections. I won't be posting or sending anything else to anyone after this, but I'm excited to show you more in person when we come back. Please watch before Sunday, as all Pix accounts get shut down on Monday until we're back up. Can't wait to hear what you think. Have an amazing day. The WGA strike ended on September 27th of 2023, and the SAG-AFTRA strike ended on November 9th of 2023. Months before, Baldoni had made Lively's representative aware that they would continue pre-production in order to hit the ground running when the strike ended, but Lively and her lawyers had been busy devising other plans during the strike. The same day that the SAG-AFTRA strike ended, Baldoni, the studios, and producers were eager to resume production. Instead, they were met with an email from Lively's lawyer, who sent Wayfarer an unsettling and unexpected 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. The stunning list was drafted for the apparent purpose of insinuating or outright claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct during filming. Nothing could be further from the truth. Okay. Dear Wayfarer team, with the tentative resolution of the SAG-AFTRA strike, we are writing to assess how to handle a return to the set of It Ends With Us, the film. It is no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented throughout pre-production and photography. While we reserve all legal rights at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HP process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for our client to feel safe, moving forward, returning to production, we are attaching a list of protections that we will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film's producers. If the production is unwilling to accept and uphold these protections, our client is prepared to pursue her full legal rights and remedies. This letter is not intended to constitute a full statement of all facts and circumstances relating to this matter. It is not intended to be, nor should it be, construed as a waiver, release, or a relinquishment in any of our client's rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. Sincerely, Lively's counsel. Both Wayfarer and Sony attempted to revise the document to make it factually accurate, being that the representation of set culture was inaccurate, and sent comments through Wayfarer's attorney, who incorporated Sony's notes. But Lively's counsel response made it clear that the list was not open for negotiation. The list we provided was not intended as a starting point for negotiation. Rather, it is a set of protections that needs to be in place in order for our client to return to work. Please let us know as soon as possible whether Wayfarer will agree and accept all of those protections included in our original communication, including without limitation, number 11 and 12, with the following additional clarifications. 14, in addition to the stunt double Wayfarer to engage, Blake Lively approved body doubles for both characters for all simulated sex scenes. And 15, the requirement applies to any future filming as well to any footage that has already been shot. And 16, we can limit the requirements to scenes involving nudity, partial nudity, and or simulated sex. That's Lively's counsel. It was clear that Wayfarer would have to sign the document, as is, despite the falsity of its insinuations. The alternative was to lose millions of dollars, cost hundreds of people their jobs after they had been out of work for months, and destroy their relationship with Sony. Nonetheless, the demands themselves were agreeable. Indeed, some were already in place. To illustrate the distorted and downright fictional basis for the 17-point list of demands, each of them is addressed in turn below. Point 1, an intimacy coordinator. Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of the production, so Wayfarer took no issue with this request itself, because despite both Lively and her attorney knowingly insinuating that there was not one. On or about March 20th of 2023, nearly 2 months before filming began, Baldoni met with the intimacy coordinator in early of April of 2023, more than 6 weeks before production commenced. She was engaged. Lively was aware. As Baldoni had informed her in writing, on or about April 6, 2023, Lively's attorney was also aware, as documented in May 8, 2023, emails between her and Wayfarer's attorney within which Wayfarer provides her the intimacy coordinator approved nudity writer, followed by writer confirmation of said approval. Okay, next we have Wayfarer's counsel to Lively's counsel. Hello, I hope you had a good weekend. Attaching here Blake's nudity writer for your review. This has been approved by SAG intimacy coordinator. Apologies for this rush job. Please note that we need this signed by tomorrow, reserving customary rights. I look forward to hearing from you shortly. Kind regards. Do you have a written approval from the intimacy coordinator for the exhibit that you can share? Confirmation for something attached here. Let me know if you need anything else at the moment. Thanks. Although the presence of an intimacy coordinator is not Screen Actors Guild rule, but rather a recommendation, Baldoni was eager to engage one from the start to ensure talent himself included felt safe during intimate scenes. It was also important to him that the intimacy coordinator be a woman to help craft sex scenes that would speak to the mostly female audience of the book, i.e. be written with the female gaze, a fact that Lively later mocked in both her complaint and her CRD complaint. Okay. 81. Given both Lively and Reynolds' first-hand knowledge of these facts, Lively's insistence in her November 9th, 2023 return to production demands on the constant presence of an intimacy coordinator was baffling. However, because Wayfarer had already engaged an intimacy coordinator and had no issue with the request, and given the request came with the threat that Lively would not come back to work after months of filming and planning, Wayfarer acquiesced. The acquiescence given with the written caveat that Wayfarer, disgraced with the characterizations, was later used by Lively to falsely suggest an acknowledgement that there had not been an intimacy coordinator at all. Point 2, limiting review of intimate scene footage to those with essential business reasons. Given that this was already standard practice in the film industry and in practice on the film set, Wayfarer readily agreed to this demand, though without any reason to believe that the demand was made in response to any inappropriate conduct. Despite having filmed for over a month, and despite having been provided a nudity rider and the opportunity to negotiate, vitalize, and sign, Lively had never asked for a closed set. However, production had always adhered to this and had no problem adhering to this demand. For clarity, no intimacy scenes were even shot prior to the November 9th, 2023 return to production demands. Therefore, under no circumstance did Lively shoot intimate scenes without a nudity rider, as suggested in her complaint, and production did not violate any SAG-AFTRA rules. The one simulated nude scene filmed prior to the strike break and the November 9th return to production was a scene that Lively wrote, knew of in advance and directed the action for, and never requested a nudity rider or intimacy coordinator for that scene. The demand as written suggests nude or intimate scenes were filmed with non-essential personnel present. Later in her complaint, Lively alleges that during a scene, the birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in the stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia, and that there were non-essential persons present. This allegation is knowingly false. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from below the chest is dishonest. Lively was wearing black briefs and a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. Her legal complaint deliberately suggests that she was wearing a small piece of nude fabric glued around her genitalia. By stating this is generally what female actors use to provide the same minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, leaving the reader to believe Lively was only wearing this small fabric. Lively was aware of this birthing scene as she was heavily involved in the writing, rather rewriting the script, and gave creative input for the specific scene, even against the director's creative vision. Moreover, film footage clearly demonstrates that the set was not chaotic, as she alleges, and only essential individuals, the film crew talent, were present for the scene and doing their jobs. Importantly, Lively knowingly and falsely alleges that the film's financier was present during these scenes and insinuates that he was watching her nude, which he had no desire to do. He was not even on set during the filming of the scene. He arrived later, merely stopping by for a brief moment amid his busy business schedule, and was present during the filming of a scene. Okay, let's see here. Hi 61, how are you? Hi, easily distracted. Okay, where were we? Filming of a scene. in which Lively's character spoke with a female OBGYN doctor, a scene in which she was fully clothed. Point J. No spontaneous improvisation of scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity, which must be choreographed with intimacy coordinator. Contrary to Lively's knowingly false claims, it was Lively who refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out these scenes, putting Baldoni in an awkward position of meeting alone with the intimacy coordinator and later relaying sex scenes, suggestions, and plans to Lively in the intimacy coordinator's absence. These meetings often took place at Lively's insistence in the couple's home, and often while Lively's husband was present. Lively's method of work was unconventional and uncomfortable for Baldoni. To suggest Baldoni was the one who created this scenario is knowingly false. Okay, so this says, Justin Baldoni says, just had the intimacy coordinator, who I love, will set you up to meet full time with her next week for intro. Blake says, I feel good. I can meet with her when we start. Thank you. Thank you, though. And then he says, just want to tell you about this. It seems she doesn't want to meet the intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. Female producer, that's fine. If she doesn't want to meet her now, maybe you just have to walk her through what you and something are thinking. You're done. Okay. You're good, Carolyn? You? Oh, hi. I'm good. Okay. As a result, many sex scenes were not written with simultaneous collaboration and input from both Lively and the intimacy coordinator, as Baldoni had long intended. The female gaze that Lively distorted in her CRD complaint and on Information and Belief circulated to the New York Times for its publication weeks before filming her complaint with the court. In the end, Lively rejected all of the intimacy coordinator's proposals to rewrite the scenes herself. Most egregiously, Lively later used these circumstances, created entirely by her, to accuse Baldoni of insisting Lively do uncomfortable or gratuitous scenes that were in fact proposed by the intimacy coordinator and by all accounts very typically asks of any actor performing simulated sex scenes. This is well documented in handwritten notes Baldoni took during meetings with the intimacy coordinator and later read to Lively. Lively, in her recent allegations, misrepresented these ideas as personal, despite the fact that they were workshopping scenes for their characters. Lively's inability to discern the basic premise of the divide between collaborating on a film and personal interactions with her co-star and director is woven throughout her claims of sexual harassment. In support of what Lively positioned as the impetus for these demands, she alleges that Baldoni personally added graphic content, including a scene in which Miss Lively was to orgasm on camera. This is false. During a creative meeting, when Lively requested to take place in her home, Baldoni read to her his notes from the intimacy coordinator, including a suggestion that Lively's characters owe during the scene, similarly to the book. Lively remarked, "Oh no, I'm too old for that." And Baldoni offered another suggestion instead, also from his notes from the meeting with the intimacy coordinator. Baldoni then moved on. Good night, One-Eye Blind Art. Lively's later complaint sheds light on what the point was alluding to in this demand, which at the time was baffling, and upon review of the filmed evidence is unequivocally based on a lie. Production was filming a romance montage of Lily and Riley on their date. Once one of the producers played music to set the mood so the characters could slow dance. Lively, consistently unable to take direction, insisted she really liked the idea of the characters constantly talking because, as she described, she and her husband liked to keep talking and talking and talking. Baldoni, her director and the film's assistant director who was directing the scene, disagreed. In an attempt to encourage her to take his direction, Baldoni offered up that he and his wife often just look into each other's eyes silently, to which she responded, like sociopaths, and laughed. Baldoni laughed and shook it off, while Lively once again started talking about how she and her husband can't not talk. Baldoni said, "I think that's cute," and complimented the couple. To which Lively responded, "I think it's more than cute." Lively continued arguing and tried to direct him for the scene. While they were supposed to be in character filming the scene, at some point, Heath and another producer, irritated, called Baldoni aside to express they can't capture the intended shot because Lively wouldn't stop talking. He was instructed to somehow get her to stop. While there was a brief verbal exchange, Baldoni, heeding the instruction of the assistant director and producers, continued to try to bring them back into character. As they were acting in this montage scene, Lively continued to break character and speak as herself rather than Lily, which was extremely confusing for Baldoni, who was trying to balance directing the scene within his artistic vision while also acting in character while filming and trying to get Lively to do the same. Lively apologized for the smell of her spray tan and body makeup, and Baldoni responded, "It smells good," and continued acting. Physically touching. Lively took them out of character again and began to joke about Baldoni's nose, which he laughed off, and joked in turn, even as Lively joked that he should get plastic surgery. Lively incorrectly alleges that this scene was filmed without sound. Baldoni was wearing a microphone, and the entire exchange is captured on camera. Any suggestion that this scene was filmed in any other manner other than pure professionalism by Baldoni is unequivocally countered with actual evidence. Her allegation of sexual harassment is a documented and knowingly fabricated lie. Moreover, it was Lively who engaged in unchoreographed kissing scenes. One scene, again captured on camera, exhibits Lively pulling Baldoni in to kiss her. It is clear Lively was initiating unchoreographed kissing in one take. She pulled Baldoni in and kissed him once, in another twice, and the number of kisses entirely initiated by Lively changed at her whim. Baldoni, as a professional actor who, among other roles, played the lead's love interest in television Jane the Virgin for 5 years, 100 episodes, is, like most actors, accustomed to rehearsing or filming scenes multiple times, often with variations, without needing permission while in character. While Lively now takes issue with any innocuous improvisation, Baldoni, as Riley, may have allegedly initiated while in character. Baldoni treated their relationship on camera as professional, each playing their part, each doing their job. If no one was supposed to improvise, Baldoni would have no way of knowing. Based on Lively's own actions, Lively demonstrated again and again that this was normal and acceptable part of filming romantic scenes. Lively also complains that there was inappropriate and improvised kissing during the first period of filming before the strike break. But in fact, the only 2 kissing scenes filmed during the initial filming period were both scenes that included kisses as written in the script. These kissing scenes were not improvised. Point 4, no physical touching of Lively, including hugging or comments on her physical appearance, except in connection with the character and or scene work, not as to Lively personally. To be clear, none of the named parties touched Lively when not in character, especially not in the manner suggested. While Baldoni and Wayfarer clearly agreed that co-workers should respect physical space, Lively's constant confusion of references to her character as played by Lively, as opposed to Lively herself, became problematic and interfered with production. This was caused in large part by Lively's persistent desire to direct and inability to accept direction. For example, her allegation that Baldoni inappropriately called her sexy was in fact a reference to a scene where everyone was wearing onesies, but Lively was covering her onesie with a big coat. Baldoni, her director, asked that she should take off the big coat so that her onesie would be visible in the scene, and Baldoni said it will be hot, as it was 90 degrees in the small bar with no air conditioning. Lively mischaracterizes this in her complaint as Baldoni referring to her personally as hot, using the slang meaning of the term. Baldoni said it would be hot. Okay. Given that Lively herself had earlier expressed to him that she wanted her character's wardrobe to be sexier, Baldoni encouraged her to accept direction by saying it's sexy, meaning that without the big coat, the wardrobe was sexier, as Lively had said she wanted it to be. Lively took this personally. She was unable to take the direction, later alleging his behavior was inappropriate. Regarding her self-chosen wardrobe, stating, "That's not what I was going for." Baldoni, recognizing that she may have taken his direction personally and appeared offended, apologized more than once. His statements were immediately followed by his gesture that she had something in her teeth and a request for someone on set to get her a toothpick. This exchange, all of which was captured on camera, demonstrates how ludicrous and deliberately malicious Lively's allegations are. While on the one hand, hold on a minute, I've just got to take a quick break here. Hold on a minute. I know I am high. I said I needed a minute. I had to blow my nose. I was getting like stuffy. Okay. All right, let's see now. Where were we? Okay. While on one hand, Lively accuses Baldoni of making comments about her appearance, on the other hand, she made derogatory comments about Baldoni's appearance, telling him he should undergo rhinoplasty. Something Baldoni has publicly expressed insecurities about, and has discussed on an episode of his podcast, Man Enough, exploring the topic of body dysmorphia. Lively's comment about Baldoni's nose is also captured on camera. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Easily Distracted. Cheers, love, and hugs to all. Love this channel. Thank you so much, Easily Distracted. I appreciate that so much. Okay. Lively's comments about Baldoni's nose is also captured on camera. Baldoni, rather than write down a list of grievances against Lively, brushed it off and moved on with the scene. Baldoni's sincere dedication to what he has repeatedly described as holding himself accountable as a man while being used against him, just as Lively is attempting to do now, to characterize his sensitivity to her personal reaction to his creative direction, which was not only innocuous but well intended, is malicious. To then share this knowingly false characterization with the New York Times for publication months before filing any formal complaint, then waiting nearly 2 weeks to file the complaint with the court, thus depriving him the opportunity to engage in discovery before the damage is done, is inexcusable. Despite the flawed factual premise underlying Lively's demand and the fact of Lively's refusal to return to work, Wayfarer agreed to this condition. Point 5. No discussion of personal experiences with sex or nudity, including as it relates to conduct with spouses or others. While Baldoni was faced with this demand, he was utterly confused. By the time Lively and Baldoni were developing their intimate scenes together, they had developed a friendly relationship and were communicating often over text messages. Lively felt comfortable expressing herself and appeared to do so freely. She took photos of Baldoni holding and comforting her newborn in her home. Baldoni filmed her uncontrollably laughing with him as they rehearsed late into the evening, often delirious with exhaustion. Nothing about their interaction suggested that Lively was uncomfortable around Baldoni. Though confused by this demand and denied the opportunity to revise the return to production demands to make them factually accurate and less misleading, Wayfarer had no choice but to sign the document and did so, knowing no such instances had occurred. Later, Lively references in her complaint instances that were shockingly mischaracterized and in no way inappropriate or unprofessional. For example, in response to a proposal from the intimacy coordinator that Baldoni's character, Riley, not O after he satisfied Lively remarked, "I'd be mortified if that happened to me," personalizing the character's sexual act, Baldoni following Lively's lead in what he understood to be an attempt to connect with and develop their characters, remarked that those have been some of the most beautiful moments between himself and his wife. Okay. Then they moved on. In another instance, as Lively and Baldoni were developing their scenes, Lively said, "I don't want it to look like porn," and then offered up that she had never seen porn in her life. A very personal fact, Baldoni complimented her and said, "That's wonderful because unfortunately, he was exposed to it when he was 10 years old and struggled with a porn addiction for a period of time in his life." He writes openly about this in both his books, Boys Will Be Human, written for young boys, and Man Enough, written for men, addressing pornography as a societal problem. Anyone who knows or who has done any research on Baldoni would have knowledge of this, and it can in no way be characterized as inappropriate, especially after opening the door to the discussion by disclosing something highly personal. At every turn, Baldoni was entrapped. Moreover, Heath, who had nothing to do with this exchange and has never had a porn addiction or even mentioned porn in Lively's presence, was falsely and knowingly lumped into this accusation. Lively continued with an outrageous and knowingly false suggestion that she was shown pornography or naked images of Heath's wife on set. This allegation knowingly and maliciously misrepresents an instance when, in connection with the birthing scene, Heath, at the director's request, attempted to show Lively a video that demonstrated the director's vision for the scene. The video, which ultimately was not shown to Lively, even though she stated she'd like to see it later, as she was eating, is by all accounts beautiful, since Lively wanted to see it later. What she saw was the first image at the start of the video, which shows Heath's wife, himself, and their baby after his wife gave birth at home, a natural birth or home birth. To characterize this image that captures such a beautiful moment with their newborn baby, shared with the consent of his wife for the purposes of the film, as a naked photo or worse porn is deplorable. Nonetheless, Lively did not object and asked to see the video after she, 8, having managed to convince the director to write and shoot the scene according to her specifications. These brief exchanges were distorted beyond recognition in the 17-point list of return to production demands that Lively served on Wayfarer. Still, without conceding that anything remotely inappropriate had happened, Wayfarer agreed to this condition so that they could resume production. Point 6. No one entered Lively's trailer while she wasn't dressed. The suggestion that this ever happened is illogical and categorically false. No one would or did enter Lively's trailer without knocking first and asking permission. More than once, Lively invited Baldoni, Heath, and other producers into her trailer so that she could multitask. Understandably, balancing motherhood with her work obligations, regrettably, while accommodating Lively, Baldoni and Heath were led into situations that would later be characterized as harassment. Lively invited Baldoni to her trailer to work on lines while she pumped breast milk. Lively regularly breastfed in front of Baldoni while they had meetings. Heath was invited into her trailer for meetings at her request while she was having makeup removed from her collarbone because she was not able to meet at another time. Her nanny, makeup artist, and assistant were present, and Lively was not topless, as she claims elsewhere, but was fully covered with either nursing or pumping breast milk. In this instance, he was instructed to turn away while they spoke and respectfully did so, while they figured out a time to meet with the other producers standing just outside the door, and as Heath pleaded with Lively to have the meeting the next day to avoid her getting home late and losing shoot time the following day. While it is possible he inadvertently made eye contact at one point, he does not recall. Lively later mentioned he did, and it made her uncomfortable, to which he responded, "I'm so sorry. I really didn't realize." Lively responded, "I know you weren't trying to cop a look," and they moved on. Lively's suggestion that not one but 2 professional and conscientious men barged into her trailer several times or attempted to enter or pressured her to allow them to enter offends not only their long-established integrity, but the sanctity of their vows to their wives and their dedication to their children and families. Lively is aware that both men are incredibly supportive and respectful of motherhood, to say the least. Heath's wife is a vocal advocate for postpartum mothers. Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that designed a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was an infant. Baldoni had gifted Lively one. While those facts would never be an excuse for barging in unannounced, it is indicative of the nature of their relationship with and respect for women. Simply put, such allegations are categorically false claims that would have been wildly out of character if they were true. Point 7. No filming nude scenes except per nudity rider, and no use of prior nude scenes without nudity rider. Lively was provided a nudity rider approved by the SAG intimacy coordinator and was given ample opportunity to provide notes before production commenced. Despite constant pursuit over several months, Lively's attorney never produced notes, and Lively not only didn't sign the nudity rider during the first phase of production, but never even signed her employment agreement. Her main concern, while Wayfarer lawyers were all but begging for signatures, was ensuring her fee was deposited into escrow. Where are we? Into escrow. Where the heck are we? Where the heck are we? Oh, here we are. In order to move forward, they had to pay her fee, even though she hadn't signed her agreements. The Screen Actors Guild states that producers must provide actors at least 48 hours notice before call time to review and negotiate a nudity rider. A nudity rider approved by the SAG-AFTRA intimacy coordinator working on the production was provided to Lively's counsel on May 8th of 2023. Wayfarer's attorney communicated that they would like it signed by May 11th, 2023, and they requested they send any notes they may have. On May 12th, 2023, Blake also played the female Deadpool. Yeah, hi 61. On May 12, 2023, Lively's attorney finally responded that they were reviewing the nudity rider and would come back with notes. Their focus then shifted to ensuring Lively's fee was deposited in escrow, and they became fixated on that, despite Wayfarer's repeated requests for Lively to sign the customary certificate of engagement first. Ultimately, despite constant pursuit, it became clear that Lively had no intention of signing the nudity rider on her contract at that time. Lively's counsel, hello, I hope you enjoyed the 4th of July. Very confused as to what's going on here. Escrow was made in good faith, and we still don't have a signed COE. That has been confirmed for almost 2 months. Also, we still don't have the SAG start paperwork, which has been outstanding for over a month. Lastly, please confirm the last 2 payments are still being held in escrow. Thanks, Wayfarer Counsel. Months later, the demands for a nudity rider became part of the 17 demands and presented as if it were Wayfarer and not Lively who was the cause of its absence. The demand also stated that any footage previously shot without the nudity rider in place may not be used without Lively and her legal representative's consent, despite the fact that no simulated sex had been filmed yet. In fact, only one scene involving simulated nudity had ever been filmed, and it was a scene that Lively knew of well in advance, given that she wrote it herself, knew when it would be filmed, and directed the action herself, never requesting a nudity rider or an intimacy coordinator. Point 8. Lively entitled to personal representation on set. Wayfarer had no objection to allowing Lively a personal representative on set. Point 9. Notice of COVID-19 exposure on April 26th of 2023. Weeks before principal photography of the film commenced, Wayfarer sent crew a COVID-19 protocol update, informing them that the AMPTP return to work agreements expire on May 12, 2023, and as such, there would be no pre-employment testing and no mask requirements after May 12th of 2023. Although the AMPT return to work agreement that established COVID protocols expired prior to the start of principal photography and no testing or masking was required, Wayfarer agreed to inform Lively if production became aware that she was exposed to COVID. Point 10. No retaliation for requests. While Wayfarer in no way conceded that Lively's demands amounted to a report of genuine sexual misconduct, Wayfarer had no interest in retaliating against Lively for making these demands. The only desire was to make a great movie. In the interest of maintaining a professional and productive atmosphere on set, they agreed to meet all of the demands, including a broadly defined statement that they would not retaliate in any manner, including sarcasm. Wayfarer agreed, though later it became clear that Lively would consider any future effort to push back against her demands with respect to the production as unacceptable retaliation. On information and belief, this demand was included to safeguard Lively not from retaliation but to secure her place as the leader of the film, with the threat of claims of retaliation if Wayfarer or Baldoni pushed back. Point 11. Mutually agreed Sony representative required on set. Wayfarer agreed to the concept of having a Sony representative on the set whenever Lively was on the set, though it gently pushed back on the area that it always be Angie Giannetti, who might occasionally have other pressing work obligations. Overall, however, Wayfarer agreed. Point 12, additional Lively appointed producer to be hired to supervise filming. Wayfarer pointed out that the additional expense and the contractual implications of hiring an additional producer would have been detrimental effects on the production. In the end, Wayfarer agreed, as it would cost production more if Lively refused to return to work. Todd Black, suggested by Sony and approved by Lively, was ultimately brought on as an additional producer. Point 13. Existing third-party producers empowered to actively supervise the production, while disagreeing with the suggestion that any producer did not have appropriate and customary authority to actively supervise the production in the capacity as producer. Wayfarer agreed to this term. Any third-party producer was already empowered to do so. Point 14. Wayfarer to use Lively approved body and stunt doubles for intimate and sexual violent scenes. Despite not requesting this at the contract negotiation phase, Lively's pre-approved stunt and body doubles were fully acceptable to Wayfarer, and so they agreed, despite the fact that was an additional and unplanned expense to the film. Ultimately, no body doubles were used in the film at Lively's request. Lively and Baldoni displayed a courteous and professional relationship throughout the phase 2 of production. Point 15. No filming nude or sex scenes of any actor's portrayal of Lily except per nudity rider, and no use of prior nude scenes without nudity rider. This was an overstep, an attempt to expand Lively's right to her own nudity rider, to assert control of the nudity rider for another actor, the actor who was portraying the young Lily, while seeing this as infringing on the young actor's independent right to her own nudity rider. Wayfarer once again was forced to agree, while informing Lively that young Lily had already filmed her intimate scenes pursuant to her own nudity rider. Point 16. All day players must be hired through talent agencies, not personal connections. This point appeared to relate to Lively's misleading claim that Baldoni inappropriately cast a personal friend to play the obstetrician during Lily's birth scene. Baldoni casting an experienced actor who happens to be a friend is no different than casting Lively's sister, who was cast because she is Lively's sister. The actor portraying the obstetrician is an award-winning Shakespearean-trained actor with an MFA in acting from UCLA. And in addition to appearing on numerous hit television shows, has toured nationally with a Tony Award-winning acting company and attended Oxford's acting program on full scholarship. His accolades and performances speak for themselves. Lively's current complaint states that she was alarmed when Baldoni introduced him as a friend and allowed him to play this intimate role in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia. Characterizing the experience as invasive and humiliating, it is Lively's suggestion that a highly trained and experienced actor would have an unseemingly interest in being in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia, which, as previously established, was not nude or exposed, that is inappropriate, invasive, and humiliating to the actor. To reiterate, Lively knowingly made a false statement that only a small piece of fabric covered her genitalia during the birth scene. In fact, Lively was wearing briefs during the scene and was covered by a hospital gown and was wearing a pregnancy suit covering her midsection and was not in any way nude or partially nude scene. Once again, Wayfarer agreed, despite being wholly offended by this accusation. Wayfarer understood this request to be a sincere offer to meet and discuss the needs and preferences of Lively and other cast members to ensure comfort and security while filming a movie that dealt with difficult themes. In that spirit, Wayfarer readily agreed, believing that an opportunity to discuss concerns openly and to plan resuming production would be welcome, as will be established. Wayfarer's good faith belief could not have been further from the truth behind this demand. Lively, with the support of her husband, used this demand to justify an ambush of Baldoni and Heath on the eve of the first day of filming in Phase 2 of production. Importantly, Sony, who also had a representative on set, found the 17 requests confusing as well. Hey, Jamie, take a look at this following our conversation. No change in my mind from what we discussed last evening. Items 1 through 10, 15, and 17 are basically just yes, of course. Interestingly, I'm surprised that you all don't have a negotiated nudity rider in place given the subject matter and content in the book, or am I misinterpreting her comment? Items 11 to 13, I'd want to hear more about what is underlying and what it's hoping to accomplish. Respectfully, of course, is the hope that some combination of the studio representatives and the empowerment of Alex, presumably, whatever that means. Again, hoped for clarification might mitigate the need to engage an additional A-level producer. Item 14 is another question mark, since it sounds like she approved the engaged stunt double. And for item 16, I guess I'm confused about this one as well, and why the engagement of day players has found its way on the list. Perhaps some of the upcoming sensitive scenes involve day players, extras, and this is an attempt to manage the perception of the professionalism. Again, anyway, another clarification point. Further, as discussed, overall the tone of the response has been part denying the underlying insinuations or allegations, but doing so in a way that doesn't inflame or escalate further, since most of what's on the Wayfarer is acknowledging, addressing, and of course, any unease on her part is a paramount concern to the production, and you are all committed to working with her to ensure that she is comfortable with the plan and execution of the next few weeks in order to complete photography. Right? I'm going to send a copy to folks internally and ask that our production attorney offer any assistance to redacted and redacted with respect to the drafting, etc., that they may feel they need. Best, Sony Business Affairs. Before returning to production, Lively had even more script notes and changes beyond what was already performed during Phase 1 of production. In the face of these terrifying and false accusations, couched as demands, as well as Lively's threat that she would not return to production, Baldoni realized he needed to cede control of the script to Lively as he wished. His film would be taken from him by threats and coercion, and there was nothing to be done about it. In an email to his team containing the notes on his revised script, he expressed his sadness and frustration over Lively's takeover of a film that they spent years developing, writing, and funding. Having no energy left to fight, he'd sadly declared he was waving the white flag and submitting and would give Lively 98% of what she wants. He also expressed serious concerns over how to handle the intimacy scenes, given the accusations inherent in Lively's return to production. Okay. Demands. Baldoni asked his producing partners to guide him, as he was rightfully afraid of the risk that something innocuous or not to Lively standards would very likely be used against him, as it already had. continuing that creativity is impossible in an environment shrouded by fear. By now, we all know what she is capable of. Baldoni's fear of Lively's retaliation was palpable. But he was determined to get the film to the finish line for everyone involved. Okay, Justin Baldoni to members of the production team. Hey team! Attached is a revised script with the below notes, caveats in bold. This is not final, as there are things we need to discuss and then implement. Also, I have added in, redacted, AD here to have eyes on this so he can digest at the same time as all of you. I've spent the better part of the last few days trying to figure this out. Everyone knows how I feel about this and how angry I am that Blake has taken over our film and somehow rewrote a movie we spent years developing, writing, and funding. So yes, I'm furious and sad, but I will continue to get back up with the goal of getting us to the finish line. I have come to terms with the fact that the only way out is through. I am waving the white flag and submitting. I am going to give her 98% of what she wants. I'm sure none of us have the energy to fight anymore. He wrote this. The team who has been working their arses off needs a shooting script on January 2nd. So here's where we are. There are minor things I did to each scene. Some I made notes on, and tiny ones I didn't. Most of what I touched is below. The big issues are going to be intimacy. How and what we are shooting for the scenes, and how this script is going to be presented to her and with what notes. To that end, we all need to get on the phone and talk through it as the risk of something innocuous or not meeting her standards could and would very likely be used against me, as it already has, and creativity is impossible in an environment shrouded in fear. By now, we all know what she is capable of. A producer thanked Baldoni for his thoughtful breakdown, especially considering the circumstances. Thank you for this thoughtful breakdown, JB. Especially this week, and especially considering the circumstances. I'm free after 2 PT today or before 12 PT. As producers continued to request the final shooting script, as there were only just 4 days before commencement of filming, Baldoni worked hard with very limited time to rework this script and the direction to meet Lively's demands, recognizing that they would be in a negotiation for what the final script looks like. Lively's demands continued to cause additional work and stress for the production team. This is again from Justin to the Heath. Hey buddy, unfortunately it looks like we're not going to be able to send anything until Thursday night or so. I'm not quite sure how to handle this, but I'm doing these small rewrites and I'm going to be sending back to the producers and all of you, and they are going to send it to Blake, and then we will be in a negotiation for what looks like the final script. Meanwhile, on the day before commencement of the second phase of filming, Lively casually reaches out to Baldoni, together with Heath and the film's producers, to meet in her home. Lively's return to production demands required a meeting before filming resumed. On the day before filming, Baldoni, Heath, and a Sony representative, the film's first assistant director, and 2 producers arrived with production binders in tow, excited to discuss the details of resuming production. But Lively and her husband had a very different meeting in mind. Lively brought Reynolds as her chosen representative. Notably, she did not request any attendees from her union. The Screen Actors Guild, together, Reynolds and Lively, blindsided the rest of the group with a list of grievances read aloud by Lively that were as troubling as they were fictional. Reynolds then laughed into an aggressive tirade, berating Baldoni in what Baldoni later described as a traumatic encounter As Baldoni later said, he had never been spoken to like that in his life. Reynolds demanded that Baldoni apologize to Lively for actions that had either never happened or had been grossly mischaracterized. Baldoni resisted apologizing for things he had not done, further enraging Reynolds. Everyone, including the producer, Lively had asked the production to engage, and the Sony representative left the meeting in shock. The producer said that in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone speak to someone like that in a meeting. The Sony representative said later that she often thought of that meeting, and her one regret was not intervening to stop Reynolds' tirade against Baldoni. Baldoni and Heath left the meeting deeply unsettled by Lively and Reynolds' behavior and the power dynamics at play. It was clear to them that this was the latest escalation in Lively's concerted campaign of extortion to extract concessions and creative control over the film, a campaign now apparently joined by Reynolds. Nonetheless, faced with persevering in the face of extortion threats versus shutting down a film halfway through production with all the attendant financial and reputational implications, Wayfarer had virtually no choice but to resume production and finish the film, despite the newfound certainty that Lively was intentionally manipulating, distorting, and inventing facts to use as a cudgel against Wayfarer. The stakes could hardly have been higher for Wayfarer. Financiers had invested substantial resources. Hundreds of cast and crew members had endured months without work due to the strikes, and years of development had gone into bringing the film to life. Moreover, Baldoni and Heath shared a conviction that It Ends With Us could still end up as a powerful opportunity to center the voices and the stories of domestic abuse survivors. It's crucial to note that the list of grievances read at the January 4th, 2024 ambush were now separate and apart from the 17-point return to production demands that were never presented to any of the parties present. Though Lively's CRD complaint misleadingly suggests that the parties agree to a list of 30 items, many of the items listed on the CRD complaint were new, entirely based in lies, and neither real nor provided to any of the parties, let alone agreed to. The only document presented to the parties was the 17-point return to production demands presented on November 9th, 2023, and signed over 2 weeks after this meeting. On January 19th, 2024, Lively's CRD complaint, which on information and belief she disseminated to the New York Times well in advance of any legal filming, is riddled with blanket and deliberate misrepresentations, as is her complaint here. As Lively admits, filming resumed the following day and then concluded without any further grievances or references to previous disputes by Lively. The parties agreed to implement and follow the protections for return to production to ensure the film could be completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully, and it was. Production of the film resumed on January 5th, and it concluded on February 9th, 2024. The film has been a resounding success. Now that Lively has unleashed Reynolds on Baldoni and Wayfarer, they felt powerless to oppose the couple. Just as Lively had warned in April of 2023, 9 months before, Reynolds would ensure that Lively's demands were met at every turn. From then on, Lively would get her way, or else, unmistakably, Lively would use her carefully constructed paper trail to destroy Wayfarer, Heath, Baldoni, and the film. Lively completes her usurpation of the film, and the Directors Guild of America requires a 10-week editing period for our directors to privately edit and assemble their director's cut. This period is known as sacrosanct, as it gives the director uninterrupted time to creatively shape the final product, a time to experiment, take risks, and refine until the film fully reflects their artistic vision. For Baldoni, this period is the peak experience of the filmmaking process, a time to immerse himself in the creative craft, free from external influences, but lively denied Baldoni that experience on this powerful and deeply felt film. Lively requested through producer Todd Black to join Baldoni in the editing bay. As a seasoned professional with over 20 years of experience in film and television, not to mention growing up in a family deeply involved in the industry, Lively had full well the implications of her request, but in the aftermath of the serious and false allegations that she had leveled against Baldoni, Heath, Wayfarer, and production with pressure from Sony, they reluctantly agreed to grant her access to the editing bay for 2 days. Notably, despite her allegations that Baldoni made her uncomfortable, Lively insisted on working closely with him through this process. Okay. I'm going to stop there because we've read through 72 pages. And we're not going to get through the rest of the 179 tonight. So I'm going to do the word cookie daily puzzle. What are your opinions so far on this? I'm starting to see that maybe she was not telling the absolute truth, but there's also a reaction from Taylor Swift. Okay, so you don't know. It's hard to. It's so nefarious. It could be nefarious both ways. It's just, I don't know. I want to walk around with a witness all the time now. You hear these things. It's crazy. I think we should have cameras on us all the time, right? Maybe it's a good thing. Let's look at the videotape. What do we got? Did we do over? Okay, wait a minute. No. Let's see. Everyone trying to see each other. To sue each other. Yeah, High 61. It's a scary time. It really is. Rover, Red Rover, come over, High 61. Rerun, Kevin says. Rerun, like, what's happening? It's very scary times indeed, isn't it? It is, High. Okay. Most peculiar, baby. There's no I. Thank you, Easily Distracted. I hope it was okay. There's no D. Oh, Reno, you're saying? Overrun. Oh, very good, Kevin. Overrun. Okay. Rove. Okay, good. Oh, room, are you any? Very good. One more high. Oven? Yeah. It's gotta be oven. Yay, very good. Oh, Rune was Kevin. Okay, sorry. Oven was Kevin. Sorry. Thought it was high. Rove was high. And thank you for running easily distracted and Euro, and we're all done. I am gonna call it a night, guys, because I am exhausted. Let me see where I gotta see where this ends. I will see you guys tomorrow. I love you. God bless. Prayers. I'm going to put that interview up with Russell Williams tomorrow in its own video, so that if you want to see it, you can go in there and it'll be easy to find if in the future and whatever. Thank you so much, Easily Distracted, for the super chat. I appreciate it so much. Little Lady Gail B, hi there. Good night and sweet dreams. Hi 61. Everybody take it easy. Be good, people.